Hi guys, Thogrey here with a new video, and this video will be my most fun specs for Season 4 PvP in Shadowlands. And of course this is a biased video, but I wanted to talk about the most fun specs I think you could have with Season 4 of PvP. It is pretty much all kinds of PvP, but not really world PvP, because I don't really do a lot of world PvP. But if you will look for 2v2, 3v3, or even RBGs, this is a combination of all of them. I've put already the tanks in their own tier. If you want to play tanks, go for it. But IMO, I'm not having a lot of fun with tanks, so that's why they are like separated. So we have S tier, which is basically the most fun specs that you can have in PvP. A tier, which is the not most fun specs, but they are still very fun. B tier is you will have fun here and there, but it's not like groundbreaking, I would say. C tier would be like it should be improved so I can have fun with it, and D tier will be like the ones that I really don't enjoy to play, and I'm thinking that I will never really enjoy playing those specs. So in D tier it will be very rare, I think, if I put something there, but I will also try to communicate why I do put a spec into D tier. Of course, your tier list might be different with mine, so please let me know in the comment section below what your tier list might be. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Please follow my Twitch stream, because I do stream at least 2 or 3 times per week on Twitch. I also stream on YouTube, and of course like the video if you like those kinds of video. Let's start right away with Affliction Warlock. I'm talking about Shadowlands, guys. So of course Dragonfight will change a lot of things, and for me Affliction Warlocks are not the most fun spec that you can play. It is not bad, but if sometimes you will have a feeling where you don't have an enjoyment of Affliction Warlock, because they are training you age 24. You will be you will be kiting more than a marksmanship hunter, and that's really the thing. You're kiting a lot, and you will always kite a lot, because people notice that an Affliction Lock free casting is never a good sign. So for me it's B tier, because whenever they don't focus me, I'm having the time of my life, a field trip, it is perfect. But whenever I'm getting like 3 or 4 games or 5 games in a row with a demon hunter that is actually always on me, then it's not really fun. So that's why it's B tier for me. Arcane Mage, it's quite the same really. You can have a field trip as an Arcane Mage, and you can also have a very bad time, because they will like focus you most of the time. Again, I think you will have a lot more fun with Arcane Mage if you're like playing with casters, so a caster cleave. For me, it will be B tier. I see that you can have a lot of fun with the execute Lego, with barrage, and of course it will be better in Dragonflight. But in Shadowlands at the moment you are having difficulties. You will have to cast a lot, and people notice that you will have to cast a lot. And if you're playing versus the wrong classes at the wrong time, then it becomes very like hard to actually cast the important spells. But anyways, you can have fun with Arcane Mage. Arms Warriors, I feel like you will have a great time playing Arms Warriors. You have basically 4 covenants that you can play, although Necrolord and Kirin is probably the most best that you can play at the moment. But you can have fun as a Night Fae warrior in RBGs, for example, or in BGs. You can have fun as a Venthyr warrior in 2v2. In 3v3, you can play Necrolord and Kirin and not be Gimps, because those two are great choices depending on comps. And really, I think like having uptime, having those big crits, because if you build like crit heavy, you can really have a lot of execute crits, and that those are actually feeling alright. So if you want to have fun, I think warriors are really good in Shadowlands, and you might just give it a try even in season 4. Please don't listen to the naysayers about arms warriors. They are very good in 3s, and they are very good in 2s. You just need to learn what to play with and find a great healer and a great DPS in 3s, and in 2s it's quite the same. And in RBGs you can really play like crazy. If you have a great team, a great melee train, you can really stomp people. Assassination Rogue, I feel like it's quite monotone. These days people are playing Fan of Knives, so basically you have always the same go, and whenever it doesn't work for you, basically you're like waiting for next round typically. So for me, it will be C tier, because it can be improved. Of course, in Dragonflight, it looks like it's improved, but for now in Shadowlands, it is really monotone. It plays always the same way. Of course, you can play with 4 covenants, so that's pretty big. I find it as a positive, but I feel like now at season 4, I feel like I see a lot of envenom one shots. I see a lot of fan of knives one shots. Sepsis is quite gone now. You're not going for Sepsis goes anymore. I feel like you're playing Necrolord or Kyrian these days. And I don't know, maybe it's because I don't really like Rogue, so I might be biased. People might rate it higher. But in threes, I don't really like it because you don't have a lot of comps. In twos, it is still you're playing around 2 or 3 goes and then you're winning or you will lose. And in RBGs, I feel like stability is still very good compared to Assassination Rogue. So for me, it is a C tier fun wise. Resto Druid, it is god tier fun. You have a lot of mobility. In twos, you can play aggressively. You can see markers, for example, a Twitch streamer and YouTuber that actually shows you how to play aggressively as a resto druid. But you can also have fun in trees by just being obnoxious, mobility wise, cyclone wise, stun wise, vortexing people to keep them like in line. You have a lot of great things. I feel like you have also a great utility in RPGs because you will be one of the only healers that actually can follow a Guardian Druid, and that's pretty priceless sometimes on flag maps. BM Hunters. So BM Hunter, it gets improved in Shadowlands and Dragonflight, but I feel like it is still very monotone. Basically, you're playing Venthyr. There's only Venthyr that you are going to play in PvP. Basically, in twos, you are quite a god. In threes, you are also quite of a god, actually, whenever you're playing jungle. But basically, you have only 3 buttons, and I feel like if marksmanship has 3 buttons, at least it has a lot of covenants to play with, and also a lot of possibilities to play with. You can play full haste, or you can even play full mastery, or even full crit. Sometimes I saw some people play full crit, and it's actually so satisfying to play. So BM Hunter for me, it is really definitely C tier, close to D tier, but I feel like D tier is too harsh. I just don't like the playstyle. I can understand why people play BM Hunters, but it might be more about the power that the PM Hunter has with the CC and the damage than really the playstyle. I don't know. I never had a discussion with a BM Hunter actually liking the playstyle, and that's pretty big for me. Playstyle is over everything. Demonology Warlock. I don't like the current state of Demonology Warlock. I just despise playing against and playing with and playing as, because I don't like to have like 10 or 15 nameplates all around everyone, or even my pets or the pets from my enemies or pets from my allies. It irritates me. It is worse than Unholy Decay in that regard. I wish there was like a possibility to play with just one pet, but one uber strong pet that cannot die. That would be actually super lit to play. Like something that is so beefy that you don't want to actually hit it, but it does quite good damage because you have loads of abilities. I would like to play that version with metamorphosis, for example, with possibilities to actually do big bolts, for example. But playing around pets, it is annoying for the enemy team, it is annoying for you, it is annoying for your teammates, because all those nameplates, all those imps walking everywhere, all those dogs, all those tyrants and such, like it is just making arena not the great experience that it could be. In RPGs, the pets die too quickly, so basically, whenever your pet is dying, which is going to die, it becomes like a nuisance. And in 2v2, you are very strong, but I don't think like this tier list is not about who is the strongest, but it is about who has the better kit to actually enjoy playing. And for example, I really enjoy playing Destruction Warlock, but it is quite the same as Affliction, but worse. You will have to kite a lot. Whenever you're going to get knocked over by an Arms Warrior or a Fury Warrior or even a DH. I feel like the current state of Destruction Warlocks are not great. But that's why in Dragonflight they will change it. I'm super excited for Dragonflight. I'm talking a lot of Dragonflight, but trust me, Dragonflight, talent-wise, Warlocks, Fury Warriors, everything, they have great kits. I know mages have difficulties with Dragonflight at this moment, but they can still change a lot of things. I just hope that everyone will be satisfied in Dragonflight. But for now in Shadowlands, Destruction Warlock isn't it. And a lot of Destruction mains are actually stepping away from Destruction, not because of the power level. Yeah, actually also for the power level, but also the playstyle. It's around Chaos Bolt most of the time, and if you're a Necrolord, your Chaos Bolt hits like for nothing, and you're like playing around incinerates, and incinerates, yeah, it's fine, but you will need to play around disseminating bolt, and that's something that I don't really enjoy playing as. Disc Priest, for me, S tier as well, very fun, has loads of damage, you have agency in doing damage. In twos, you're not that strong because you lack CC, but in threes, you can have a field trip, especially with the current meta, like I said in the previous videos. Having an Affliction Warlock against you isn't as bad anymore because you can AoE heal a lot. You can do a AoE Holy a barrier, for example. You have a lot of great things for this to actually be enjoyable, be nice, and have a great time. So for me, Disc Priest, if you want to play an aggressive healer, I feel like Disc Priests are very good. But also they can play defensively. If you want to play Night Fate, that's also possible, and you play a bit defensively. If you want to play Venthyr, then you're going for big mind games goes. Or if you can play Kirin and you want to one-shot people yourself, you can do that as well. So you have like 3 good covenants to actually play. And I feel like the versatility that it can give is actually enjoyable to play with. Elemental Shaman, for me, it is S tier. This like playing a mastery build with Elemental Shaman and like being a literal turret and like blasting meatballs at everyone is actually very fun. Again, the rankings from D, C, B, A, and S tier are not like it could be like top 1 or top 3. I don't care. Basically, this S tier fun. And Elemental Shaman has so many tools, so many comps to play with, so many ideas that you can actually play with PvP talents. You have like a lot of mobility, a lot of actual damage that you can provide for your team. In RBGs, also people are not going to focus you, so you are going to throw a lot of meatballs to everyone, and you can even knock people out of the ledges, for example, which is also very fun. So you can do dumb fun with Elemental Shaman, you can have power fun with the Elemental Shaman, even mobility, kiting fun. You have loads of great things for Elemental, and that's why for me it is a S tier class and spec. But also comp wise, you can play Thunder, you can play with an Outlaw Rogue if you really desire. You can play with a DK, but it's subpar. But I did try and it was alright. You can play with a Frost Mage, but your hex is not really valuable. It is valuable, but it will be the art most of the time. You can play with an affliction lock and like be super strong with a destruction lock and actually making the destruction lock something good. You can play with the Demonology Warlock. You have so many options, guys. Just play Elemental Shaman and you will have fun. Enhancement Shaman, the issue is I'm having a lot of fun gameplay wise, but comp wise, it is really, really annoying. You will have to find a warrior friend to play with, and probably that warrior friend, if he switches to another class or spec, you will have to switch as well. It's not it's not versatile. You will not have fun by switching a lot of comps. You can play with a warrior or with a BM hunter, for example, and make it work. But basically, you only have 2 comps, and those BM hunters are not willing to play with enhancement shaman because it's a lot harder to actually make work. So for me, just for that reason, it is for me a B tier fun. You will have a lot of fun playing the enhancement shaman, but it will be frustrating to actually play always the same comp and always with the same people and always in the same configuration. So for me, B tier, of course, it has a lot of great combos that you can do, legendaries that you can swap, covenants that you can actually swap to Necrolord or Venthyr. But I feel like comp wise, it is still the same. You want a warrior and maybe a priest to actually complete the turbo dream. Feral druids, personally, I don't like the iteration of Shadowlands. For me, it's a C tier. I know a lot of people are enjoying Feral Druids. I can understand why. It is also very strong in all parts of the games, even in RPGs, but Feral Druids are not really taken in at this stage because, again, you only have 10 spots. But I don't like to play the current state of Feral Druids. I preferred to play Wrath of the Lich King Feral Druids, for example, or even Cataclysm. But at the moment, how feral druids are, I don't see them very fun, and that's why for me it is C tier. It is not D tier because it is really you can have fun by doing like Kyrian or Necrolord or Nightface switches, for example. But it's still always the same, pretty much playing around dots or about ferocious bites, and you can't really play about like both of them. So you need to make choices, and those choices are not really fun. And I feel like a lot of people will agree with me that feral druids in Shadowlands and even in BFA were not the most fun specs that you can play, expansion wise. That's why for me this C tier. Fire mages, I guess it's A tier. It's B tier, guys. For me, it's B tier. They only have one comp basically at the moment. You can play, of course, with a warrior. You can play with a feral druid. You can play with whatever. But RMP is still the only comp that really works 100% with a fire mage, and that's why for me fire mage is B tier, because it isn't versatile. It only has one playstyle, basically playing Night Fae, only Night Fae. Basically, you're playing around combust goes, and then you're trying to run away, set up, and try to polymorph, gain time, and build towards your next combust go. But for me, it's not really enjoyable playstyle, like an enjoyable playstyle. But I can understand why people enjoy Fire Mage. But for me, I prefer my Fire Mages that actually did a lot of dot damage, for example. I like the Fire Mages whenever they had to cast a bit to do a lot of damage, for example. That was the Fire Mage I really liked, and for now, it isn't the case. Of it is a B tier class spec. Um, Frost Mages, the issue is it is a monotone spec for now. Hopefully in Dragonflight it changes. But for me it's C tier. Basically it's only around Frostbolts. Okay, it's fun to do a 30k Frostbolt and see people melt whenever they are not going for you. And now there is an Iceland's build that Venruki discussed about, which is quite nice. But again, it's still always around either Iceland's or Frostbolt, and that never changed. And for me, they need to change something about Frost Mages to actually make it enjoyable. Maybe give it deep freeze and remove something. And I can maybe understand why you don't put deep freeze back in the game, because they're maybe a bit overloaded CC wise. But if you remove something and you can give it back to them, that would be actually something interesting, and maybe upgrade the funness of Frost Mages. Frost Decay, at the moment I'm going to tell it's B tier. I always liked Frost Decay, but I feel like now it is way too centralized into Pillar of Frost goes. And also your chill streak. And if you're playing versus people that are not letting you chill streak, basically you're not going to enjoy. You're also very squishy. Even in RBGs, you can make it work, but in random BGs, for example, it is not fun, because you will need to have a dedicated healer to actually help you do damage. And for now, I feel like it is B tier because it is not strong. Although this tier list is not based around like OP or not OP, it is based about fun. But I think it's like a combination of the two. Like, it's not fun to play around pillar goes, because basically it gets removed if you're playing versus someone that is actually like attentive and doing some disarms whenever you need it to actually do on the Frost Decay. And as a Frost Decay, whenever you're getting disarmed on your pillar go, you will have to trinket. And whenever you're trinketing, you are the target now for the whole game until you have your trinket back. And that's why for me Frost Decay is a B tier spec. I might be biased. Maybe some people would put it in D tier, but my Frost Decay, it was always my main, even in Wrath of the Lich King, even when Unholy Decay was the shit. For me, Frost Decay was always the shit. I really enjoyed Frost Decay in Wrath of the Lich King, in Cataclysm, and even in Mob. But for now, they need to change something to make it back towards the playstyle that everyone loved. Hopefully, in Dragonflight it will. Fury Warrior, it's quite the same as Arms Warrior for me. Um, for me, it might be even lower, but I'm going to put in A because warriors are notoriously great, fun classes. They have maybe not really a lot of variety in talents, but in PvP talents, they can change everything and still have something fun to do. Covenants wise, you can play the four covenants and still have fun. Of course, Ventir is not as good on Fury Warriors, but you can maybe make it work. On Arms Warriors, they have a bit more versatility in PvP talents, for example, and Covenants. But Fury Warriors, basically, if you're playing Necrolord, you might feel like a god for 15 seconds, because that's really what is happening, with Enrage being like super buffed because of Mastery, and that buff gives also more haste because of it. yeah, I mean it is enjoyable. I feel like they have like two little buttons to press, but that's all right. I feel like the mobility, the available comps that you can play as a Fury Warrior, the availability to actually stick on the target is actually fun to play as a melee, and that's why I recommend people to play warriors. Like if you're thinking about a melee to play in season 4 or even Dragonflight, just play warrior because it's never bad. It never has been bad in an expansion. Okay, sometimes Fury Warriors are D tier, but even then they are like super underestimated and they become like super strong. And then you have the result with season 3 and season 4, like having Fury Warriors so highly praised. And that's why for me it is an A-tier spec to play, like fun wise. Demon Hunters, I might be biased, guys, but for me it's C tier. It is boring. I don't like having keybinds put for other specs that are not in use because I'm playing Demon Hunter. And I really tried to make it work, to have fun with it. I tried to actually turn my brain off and like not think about the other specs, but think only about Demon Hunters. But it doesn't work for me. Okay, the mobility is fun. Okay, not having a complicated rotation might be fun because you're like playing with instinct instead of like pressing keybinds on the right times, for example. But I don't like it. I don't like to have only 3 spells on a rotation, for example, and then sometimes to throw glaive to the demon, for example. Or if you're playing the hunt, sometimes doing in the hunt, and I like a oh shit button sometimes. But I don't like it. I can understand why people play Demon Hunter, but I don't think it's for the right reasons. And maybe it is for the right reasons, but for me, it is a C tier spec to play fun wise. Holy Paladin, I don't like the current iteration of Holy Paladin. It is a C tier spec. It has damage, it has utility. It is actually very strong in RPGs. It is in 3v3, and in 2v2 is quite doo doo, so I will not play it for 2s, for example. In 3s, you can make it work, although whenever you're playing versus Affliction Warlock and an Elemental Shaman, you will feel like you only have ultimate sacrifice to save someone, which is pretty bad. I'm going to be honest. Um, it might change in Dragonflight since you will have the blessing of spell warding from protection paladins. But I feel like the holy power system from holy paladins are really not great. I feel like they need to step back and go back to Cataclysm, Wrath of the Lich King, and even Mop. I think Mop it was too late. It's also holy power, right? I think it's also holy power, but I think Wrath of the Lich King holy paladins are actually great. It is passive though. You don't really do a lot of damage, but fun wise, I feel like you have a lot more agency with a lot of potential power plays that you can do with utility. But for me, this C tier. So we are now with Holy Priest, and Holy Priest for me it's a B tier class and spec to play. Of course, Guardian Spirit is it's fun to use. You have the Res Lego, which is basically giving you a second life in arenas, which is sometimes you would like to have that whenever you're dying and you feel like okay now I have a second chance to win the game. You can play like doing a lot of single target healing, which is sometimes like super strong, and sometimes it is not enough because it is like a AoE cleave. You have great holy fire damage, for example. You have agency with your with your CCs. That's why it's super strong in 2s. And in 3s, it has stepped back a bit. So I'm going to talk about it on my next tier list for 3s. But I enjoy playing Holy Priest from time to time. But still, if I had to choose between Disc Priest and Holy Priest, it will be Disc Priest all the way. Like, if you have to compare with those two together, I would put it in D tier. But I've tried to judge the class by itself, the spec by itself, and not compare it with the other specs. Hunter, for me, it is a super fun spec. I'm playing it right now in season 4, and I like doing a lot of damage. I like to actually press aim shot and have meaningful damage. I like to do rapid fire and see him melt. I like to do sniper shot and do 30Ks on affliction locks, which is obnoxious. Like sometimes I feel bad for warlocks. Like feign death, like removing dots from yourself with the PvP talent, not with the Craven stratagem because I'm not playing with that in PvP. It's actually enjoyable. In RPGs, I need to do a lot of testing. That's why I didn't do a RPG tier list video for now. But I want to test and see for myself how it is, and if it works, then it's like more power to them. But in threes and in twos, you will have a lot of fun. You have also three great covenants to play. You can play Kyrian, which basically gives you a wall banging ability, Necrolord, which gives you a one shot potential ability, and you can even play Venthyr with haste and play like a BM hunter basically, but with your kill shot actually doing a lot of damage, like a lot more damage, especially if you're like building haste and mastery. Your kill shot might do more damage than a BM hunter, for example. Beast Weaver Monks, for me it is a D tier fun class. Mobility wise, super fun. They do no damage. They are punishing to play. Of course, it is a AFK healer, so basically you're healing your two casters. They cannot really kick you. They might switch on to you, but then the Affliction Warlock and the Elemental Shaman, for example, is free to go ham, and they will not do that. You have your TP, you have the mobility, you have leg sweep, which is fun, but you're not participating. It is the most passive healer that you can have in trees. If you're thinking Heresto Druids are passive in trees, then monks are even worse. And I would say in 2v2 it is passive, in 3v3 it is passive, in RPGs it is passive. So if you really have to choose a aggressive healer, that would be your last choice, for example. That is it. Outlaw Rogues, for me, are... It's fun. It's more fun than Assassination Rogue because you have more builds. You can play Kirin, you can play Venthyr. Also, I saw some people play Necrolord for some reason. You can have loads of success in twos, loads of success in threes. Even in RPGs, I feel like Outlaw is very strong because it doesn't die. Um, you don't die, but basically I don't like the playstyle. It's not a rogue for me. It is more of a brawler, and I can understand like people wanting to play a warrior playstyle with a rogue. But for me, whenever I'm playing a rogue, I want to play a rogue. I don't want to play a warrior disguised into a rogue, disguised into a DH, disguised into a feral, for example. I don't like it. So that's why for me it is a B tier spec. Now on this tier list, there is no balanced druid, so this is balanced druid for me. And balanced druid is also B tier. I'm going to explain myself. It is very fun to sometimes do one-shot montage videos, like damage-wise. You have loads of CC, you have loads of mobility, also loads of survivability if you're playing with a healer. But I feel like it's monotone. It's basically Star Surge or nothing. It's the only way to do meaningful damage is with Star Surge. And I feel like it is one of the most it's one of the less used casters to actually cast spells with it. It is mostly used because you want to play with a specific comp, for example, or you want to spam Star Surges or go for an RPG and play Night Fae. You have still great covenants. You can play as a Night Fae Druid, or you can even play as a Kyrian Druid, Balance Druid, and have success. But for me, it is a B tier spec, so that's why I put it in the B tier spot. It's equal to Affliction. They are monotone, basically do always the same. They need some changes in Dragonflight. I don't know how balanced druids are in Dragonflight. I need to check. But for me, right now, it is a B tier fun spec to play. Alright, Resto Shamans for me is the A tier spec for healers, like healer wise. I don't play Resto Shaman a lot, but when I do, at least I can play aggressively. I can play with the Earth Elemental Legendary, for example. I can play very aggressively with my Lava Bursts. I have huge utility with totems, with CDs that I can press. It is satisfying to play. You have a silence, like interrupt, which is super big versus warlocks, which is prevalent these days. Be in control of the CC that you can do with Hex, for example. You can do a root into a stun, for example. There is loads of possibilities to actually do as a Resto Shaman. That's why for me it is an 8 tier spec healing wise. Retribution Paladin, I like it is a 8 tier spec. It has maybe not a lot of comps that you can play, but those comps are like pumping. And of course you have like no mobility, that's why this S tier. But if it had mobility, it would be it would be definitely S tier. It has loads of damage. It has two covenants that you can play as Kyrian and as Necrolord. You can have loads of success with it. In twos, you're pretty much not going to play except for a hybrid, for example. But in threes and in RBGs and random BGs, you can play as a BG hero. You're going to one-shot people. You're going to have fun with it. And that's why I'm going to recommend people that are wanting to play a hybrid and they want to be useful, but they want also to do one-shot damage. I would say go Retribution Paladin and never look back. It is a very good spec. And yeah, it was always also the class fantasy I like, the Warrior of Light, something like that. Paladins are really fun to play. Shadow Priests, I don't like to play Shadow Priest these days. I tried it, I really tried it, but for me it is not fun. So for me, this is a D tier spec. I wish it was different. I really wish, but for me at the moment, Shadow Priests, they play like Affliction Locks, but more boring. It is one of the hardest specs to play too. Like well, your CC needs to be on the healer because then it's like quite of a loss because they can dispel silence, they can dispel stun, they can do a lot of good shit as a healer versus a shadow priest. That's why you will need to actually silence the healer, for example, and then stun and then fear. And I feel like you will miss a lot of utility on the DPS. And I also feel like you're doing a lot less damage than it should be, and that's for me this is a D tier spec. I think in Dragonflight it did change, and I'm excited for Dragonflight Shadow Priest. But for now, I think you will have a lot more fun as a Disc Priest than with a Shadow Priest. Of course, that is my opinion. I guess this one is pretty. It's a hot topic, a hot take, but for me, it is a D tier spec. Subtlety Rogue, I think it's the best rogue spec that you can play. I'm not a fan of a rogue playstyle for now, but if you want to have fun as a rogue, as stealthy, I feel like Subtlety Rogues give you a bit of everything. You can play a lot of comps, although you might want to play with RMP. You can play Tug, you can play with a Paladin, which is Kupidu Cleave, you can play with a Warrior and still make it work. It is actually like a very good spec to play with multiple classes and specs. So if you want to play Rogue, you don't know what spec you want to play, just go for a full mastery build, go for a Subtlety Rogue, and never look back and actually have fun with it. I'm not really a rogue main, so I'm not like willing to actually learn Subtlety Rogue, but if you are willing to learn Subtlety Rogue, you might have a lot of fun with it. Survivor Hunter, it is the second best hunter spec in my opinion, although they miss a few spells to actually feel like you have a lot of agency damage wise. You have a lot of agency damage wise with your bombs, kill shot with Vente. But I feel like in trees and in RBGs, you're not super valuable. You will do a lot of damage in trees and also in RBGs, but your traps are interesting. Your playstyle is interesting, but you are super squishy. And I feel like sometimes whenever you're melee, you're getting punished right away, and you will have to play like from far actually to do damage. You will do bombs, you will do serpent stings, for example. You will do like raptor strikes with your aspect of the eagle. There is a lot of great things that you can do as a survival hunter, but I feel like you will have a lot more fun playing marksmanship hunter, and that's why there is a separation between them two. Unholy Decay, to be honest, it is also a B tier spec. I prefer the previous iterations with Necrotic Strike, um, like the first iteration of Necrotic Strike, but they kind of changed, and now you are with a spec where you're pretty much relying on the Abomination Limb to actually have fun. But I don't know, man. I like Unholy Decay. I like Frost Decay, but for me, it's quite the same spec. Although Unholy Decay is just better than Frost Decay, and Frost Decay is more setup. The problem is with setup is it is interesting whenever you're not stopped with the setup, and for now you're like getting stopped at every corner. So that's why for me it is a B tier spec. So we have here our Windwalker, and I feel like you will have a lot of fun as a Windwalker, so that's why it is a 8 tier spec. It is very aggressive, it is very nervous, you have a lot of great rotational plays that you can do. There's a lot of playstyle changes that you can switch. You can switch to Kyrian, do a one-shot build, or you can play Necrolord and basically play like a setup Subtlety Rogue, and you can have fun with it. I think the issue with Windwalker is being so squishy that sometimes you will like feel like a rogue and actually run like a rogue. But whenever you have your go, you're going to delete someone and like have a crazy laugh. And yeah, I mean, comp wise, you can play with a DK, you can play with a warrior, you can play with a DH, you can play with a boomy. You have loads of great comps that you can play. You can even play with Enhancement Shaman, although I think it is very squishy for Shadowlands. I would not play an Enhancement Shaman with a Windwalker, but if you want to, you can make it work, because that was an ancient great spec that you can play in mob in WoD. Those specs were played together, so that's why I'm recommending Windwalker as a great melee to play. So this is basically my tier list for fun specs in PvP, season 4 of PvP. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Please comment below what you think about the video, about the specs. What is your fun tier list that you would give to me? I would say, like, which spec would you recommend me to play? Because I don't play all specs. I try to play all specs to actually have a educated uh, discussion with a lot of people, but for now it's a bit hard because I'm trying to concentrate on few specs to actually climb as fast as I can. So please like the video if you like the video. Please let me know which spec you're playing in the comment section below. And again, we will see each other very soon. Have a great day. Bye.